Are you excited to know that you will never own a house? Are you excited for the prospects of going into literal slavery? To not even own a car, but just having the opportunity to go into crippling generational debt, to just almost own a fraction of maybe a car? Of course you are, naturally. Are you excited for the prospect of the future being shittier than right now? Of course you are. Or at least that's what unironically a lot of these millionaires and billionaires think, because they think that money grows on trees. Because, well, from their Nepo baby standpoint, it actually does. And I honestly can't even blame them. If I was Martha drinking my seventh margarita 10 minutes after waking up about 2 p.m. on a Monday, I would also not understand the problems of the typical plebeian. I have a trust fund account where it has more zeros than I know how to pronounce. And thus, everyone should be living life like this. So, of course, money grows on trees. God, you can't hate these people enough, can you?
By now, a thought's probably crossed your mind. Aren't we supposed to know how much a Steam machine should cost? And the answer is, yeah, we were supposed to know. But the Steam machine was announced before the memory crisis started interfering with Valve's plans. And it's interfered with everyone's plans.
Memory? Wait. Did I miss something? Are we calling it now a memory crisis? Like this is a natural occurring thing? I'm pretty sure someone caused this. I'm pretty sure someone with the letters of A and I at the front of everything caused this. I'm pretty sure this is not a crisis per se. I'm pretty sure this is just another attempt at gaslighting.
PlayStation and Nintendo are both reassuring investors that they can actually secure their hardware. Nvidia are taking a different approach. If you don't announce new hardware, then you never need to secure the components. What we see is memory pricing, storage pricing, all those things have been surging across the industry for months. Thus far, it shows no sign of slowing down. And the companies driving that surge, well, they are just trying to keep their hundreds of billions of dollars in investment flowing. And that is interfering with all.
I was actually gonna say this if you won't. Because one of the way that these companies, these open AIs and other things with AI in its name, are actually securing their wealth, their high position and status in markets and power and in fancy cocktail parties that happen on islands, but we're not invited. Well, I'm gonna be invited in the future. I'm trying, boys. I really am. Well, the way that these companies secure their position in life is, by the way, by these crises, by keeping the prices high for themselves and saying, "Oh no, we can't actually manifest our full capabilities, our full power, our full money flow." Money flow in this sentence actually doesn't mean a lot, by the way, but a lot of people who are close to the finance world but don't really understand really anything about it, or are just fucking fake, say the word money flow, even though in most sentences, if you understand what these words mean, it doesn't actually make a single shred of sense. Just a throwaway thought there. Because this helps that money flow be bigger. Because they are worth so much more if their current state is not their peak. And their peak is concealed by all of these things that they obviously can't control, but are somehow the cause of, you know? The moment all these shortages goes away is one step closer to understanding that AI is fucking garbage and everyone who invested it needs to pull out. It is what it is.
Of our plans. Valve just gave us the clearest picture yet of how much this uncertainty is impacting gaming. In November, when the Steam machine, the Steam frame, and the new controller were revealed, they suggested we get a release date and a price in early 2026. Then, AMD CEO Dr. Lisa Su stoked speculation further. She talked about Valve being, quote, on track to begin shipping its AMD-powered Steam machine early this year. Obviously, it is currently early this year, and there's really no sign in sight. And after Lisa Su spoke, Valve stepped in to perform some damage control. A new blog post made things unfortunately clear. Basically, we don't know anything yet. Valve say they wanted us to know by now, but, quote, the memory and storage shortages you've likely heard about across the industry have rapidly increased since then.
By the way, at this point, I am fully convinced whatever actually happens is gonna make Valve the winner anyway in the console wars that have already died down. But, it's fun to call them the console wars still.
And that means Valve are reconsidering their shipping schedule and their pricing in light of the market conditions, though they're still...
Listen, there can't be a console war if Xbox literally said, yeah, go buy a PlayStation because we're dead anyway.
Still intending to ship, quote, in the first half of the year. And that would align with Lisa Su's comments, but it maybe isn't as early 2026 as some people hoped. Now, it's not a surprise that Valve's partners with these devices aren't being left in the dark, but players are a different story. We are not going to find out about prices until the very last moment possible. And that's all because securing the components at practical prices is becoming harder and harder than ever. And it is very much not just Valve. First though, something that ties back to our previous coverage, because in this video we learned in both Nintendo and PlayStation's earnings calls, they talked about this whole component crisis and how much it's hitting them. For PlayStation, their CFO, Lin Tao, preemptively told investors that they've gotten ahead of the memory game, that PlayStation had managed to, quote, secure the minimum quantity necessary to manage the year-end selling season of next fiscal year. So basically that just means they've secured their supplies until April 2027, and they now have got negotiations underway for demand.
Okay, fiscal year doesn't actually have a per se endpoint necessarily, first of all. Second of all, this is a lie. This is an absolute lie, okay? Because when there's a shortage, that means that everything, there's no such thing as pre-orders pretty much in this situation. Which means either the amount that they have secured is super fucking minimal, or they're just flat out lying. There's only two options, so this means nothing.
After that date. So that's PlayStation sorted, but over with Nintendo, their president, Shuntaro Furukawa's first question from investors was whether profitability would be impacted and whether price rises were coming. Of course, we all know that kind of unlike...
Imagine that. The investors asked, will we be getting more money, Chief? I don't know about you, but I'm personally shocked. Imagine the investors wanting money. Holy!
A lot of other companies, Nintendo don't really want to sell their hardware at a loss. They like to make margin on everything. It's why their devices have historically been so tightly cost controlled, often to their detriment, looking at new Nintendo Switch. But he did explain that in the third and fourth quarters, they didn't see any impact on profitability and no price rises were planned. But he did suggest, quote, if this rise in component prices lasts longer than expected and runs through the next fiscal year and beyond,
this increase on component prices should last until AI collapses.
May put pressure on profitability. So what that means is, if you're considering buying a Switch 2, you are probably fine for the near future, but we don't know how things are going to be after that. And to be in an industry where our consoles are getting more expensive over time is just insane. That is completely unlike really any other hardware cycle. And it's all because right now, the short term is relatively stable. That's because contracts have been established and those contracts will be met. All these companies already secure...
Why? It's a contract. You can break it and you just have to pay a fee. Not a big deal. Listen, if I have a contract for 5 million, but by breaking it, I have to pay like a 2 million fine or something like that. But then I can sell the same shit for 10 million. Guess what? I'm breaking that contract. Any contract that's currently not broken in this industry on these related matters, it's just a matter of time before someone figures out, wait a minute, more money here.
Their supply before this whole shitstorm happened. At least the massive volume manufacturers like PlayStation and Nintendo. But as the component manufacturers are getting more and more opportunities to guarantee data center contracts and more profitable production, while their priorities are shifting. And that, unfortunately may be a long-term change. So to translate that into what will matter to us, well, both the console manufacturers and their players are becoming lower priority to the companies who fundamentally make the hardware. And that means that the big businesses that the likes of us are used to are just small fry when compared to the AI boom. As an example, just take a look at the xAI Colossus 2 data center. It's planned, it's not like being built yet, or maybe it is being built, but it's not going to be coming online for a while. But the size of that thing boggles the mind, and there are further and larger data centers planned. So with that in mind,
Wow.
why would
That did look pretty big.
Nvidia go the entirety of 2026 without releasing a new graphics card for the gamers? The answer is fairly obvious, but according to the information, citing two sources, the 5070 Super that everyone expected to see at CES has been indefinitely delayed.
I wonder what happens here in the future. Because Nvidia created its wealth, its power, its everything by catering to gamers. And now it's openly kind of getting rid of gamers. We're no longer wanted. Shoo, get out. And what happens when this all collapses and they need gamers back? Will we be coming back? I don't know. Good question. I don't think so, though. Probably not, I would say.
So yes, it seems that the rumor cycle for that thing teased people and teased people and teased people, and now you're all blue balls, then you'll probably have to buy a card that won't be as good of a deal as you hoped, which blows. And basically, the GDDR7 memory that would have powered that card is simply too valuable to use on something for the gamers, because it can go in a data center GPU. And that actually is just the start, because there's a suggestion that the planned production run for Nvidia's next generation, 60 series, may not begin in 2027 as planned. There's simply no way to guarantee the component contracts will be in place for the next 2 years. But what about the people who are locking down those contracts? Well, they're getting into pissing matches with each other across the press, which is at least kind of funny. So thus far in the video, almost nothing we've talked about is actually about producing the components. It's all about the contract, right?
We're building on data AI center with AI videos. Oh no, that is the saddest thing I have seen.
About companies locking down manufacturing windows at affordable prices, trying to predict demand, and of course especially doing that for AI data center production. So, when Nvidia seemingly reneged on a $100 billion deal with the ChatGPT people, OpenAI, alarm bells started ringing. So,
I really love OpenAI. I love their approach to life. You know, it's great. I think it's absolutely great. It's one of the best things I have ever seen. Because they are not about profit. Well, until the point where the CEO starts buying multiple Lamborghinis because they're suddenly about profit, obviously. But I love it, you know? OpenAI has the best intentions for everything. They understand how dangerous AI is and all of the things and whatnots. The staple production robot, you know, staples, the little things that you use to put papers together. Those ones, yeah. They understand that one little mistake in a staple robot is going to take over the world and nuke humanity because it's the most efficient way to do its job, aka create staples. And I love how OpenAI is, you know, taking that into account and not... Oh, wait. They are rushing ahead because, well, the third Lambo is not going to buy itself, you know? Being cautious doesn't get you enough Lamborghinis in life. That's kind of the lesson that we are going for here.
The Wall Street Journal broke this story, and basically, the memo of understanding, which was signed back in 2025, was that Nvidia would invest $100 billion into OpenAI, and that would help pay for 10 gigawatts of compute, all running on chips leased from Nvidia. Now,
Lease!
You did follow that correctly. It did look like Nvidia was spending money that would go straight back to Nvidia. And since then, Nvidia have seemingly tried to cool the deal at that scale. Reuters cited 7 sources saying that OpenAI weren't happy with Nvidia's chipsets for the type of processing they actually cared about, which is part of why they're seeking deals with other manufacturers.
Yeah, this is... I don't remember where I heard this, but This was like a massive problem for Nvidia, and the stock has seemingly gone down because of it. Maybe I'm not sure in this case even, but it's the fact that Nvidia's GPUs, RAMs, and CPUs, and I don't know any random three letters put together at this point are not really optimized for what data centers want, and these people are slowly figuring it out. Wait a minute. We don't really need to pay for the name Nvidia when it's worse than everything else and more expensive. So we might as well actually buy a little bit from other people who, actually produce better shit and are less expensive technically. So we can say we're reaching our goals. Well, not really reaching the goals, which is always the kind of plan.
And that is where things get really interesting. As an example, like Grok, they build dedicated inference hardware, so essentially purpose-built chips that can outperform, say, NVIDIA GPU at some of the data center specific tasks. You could perhaps think about this as being similar to when Bitcoin mining, or just crypto mining in general, shifted off being done on GPUs and started being done on ASICs, which basically were just more fixed function hardware to solve those specific problems. Right? So that's the sort of thing that could interrupt NVIDIA's business.
I mean, you see, this is why I think all of this is fucking bullshit, considering all of these chips are just floodgates of ones and zeros. It's either on or it's off. How the fuck do you, how the hell do you optimize that for solving mathematical equations, okay? That sounds so sus to me.
If you take a look at the rest of the industry, well, one of the big strengths that Google have got over OpenAI is Google's TPUs. They can run loads of Gemini inference on their own hardware, and that opens up a lot of opportunities. So reasons like that are why OpenAI were maybe not particularly thrilled at the NVIDIA offering. And it's likely why Grok, spelt with a Q, so a different Grok to, the one on Twitter, it's why they were apparently close to finalizing a deal with OpenAI. And then NVIDIA sniped them, hiring their talent at a reported cost of $20 billion. So yeah, that's basically acquiring a direct competitor before they could lock in a major client. In reaction to this, stock prices dropped, and what followed was nothing less than collective performance art. NVIDIA's CEO Jensen Huang recalled the
Also, by the way, again, I know about this collapse and it's fucking hilarious. You know how I know all of this is fake? Because they literally was showing like, okay, this is the stock graph in a 3 fucking hour cut. And as you can see, the top is here and the bottom is here. And it's red, which means it's bad, obviously. And, like, this is a huge difference from this that we are currently here. And this matters. So you should probably start to think about the apocalypse and the end of the world, obviously. Because red color, bad, and huge gap, also bad. Except in women, where it's good. But we're talking about the bad gaps here, okay? And you kind of look at it and it's like, oh no, Nvidia literally lost 0.3% of its value in the last 5 minutes. Oh no, heavens to Betsy. It's not like that happens like 15 fucking times a day. Oh no!
Reports as complete nonsense about, reneging on the deal. And he doubled down on how happy Nvidia was with OpenAI. Sam Altman did likewise, saying that he doesn't get, quote, where all this insanity is coming from, because Nvidia makes, quote, the best AI chips in the world. Even OpenAI's other investors like Oracle began to performatively, and seemingly unpromptedly, making statements about how this whole thing would have zero impact on their relationship and how they were, quote, highly confident that the company could still raise money and meet its commitments. But what we're mostly seeing here, right, is a bunch of publicly listed companies and their chosen cash cows circling the wagons, trying to protect their investments and their stock price. Because rumors like this spook investors, and that is not great for companies who are trying to monetize niche research and limited use cases in a way that justifies absurd valuations. Some have suggested that all of this chaos will mean more options for players like you, that there can be chaos, a bubble can burst, and then there's some, creative destruction that's good for the consumer. And that very often is the case. But here, it doesn't seem likely. You need to understand that the scale we're dealing with here is truly gargantuan. Multinational corporations making deals for hundreds of billions of dollars, all to keep components flowing into data centers that have not yet been built. Now, a normal use case, like, for example, buying memory.
That's probably my favorite part of this fake charade, the fact that none of this stuff is even real. And the stuff that's real is not actually also real. But we say it's real to make ourselves feel better. It's so impressive, honestly. Anyway, AI is fake, Nvidia is interesting to say the least. And that was Billion News, 10 out of 10. Bye.